What do I say to you, Paula? I know you were not supporting Trump.
You called it, Jeremy, didn't you? The last time we were on together, you called it.
I was backwards and forwards.
And
I can't say I was foxed. All these blooming experts saying,
yeah,
it's too close to call. It wasn't close at all.
It wasn't. And you know what? I'm going to take us on a deep dive because that's where Donald Trump takes us, let's be frank. And if you were on certain channels on social media, you knew that this was going to be the outcome. And you will also know that the president in waiting, and I don't mean J.D. Vance, of course, I mean Elon Musk, he is going to be there, standing by Trump's side.
And Robert F. Kennedy, RFK, the son of the famous Bobby Kennedy, who was furious, he thought the vaccine was a plot to kill us all, looks like he may become the Secretary of State for Health in the USA.
These are new, they are sort of tested, but also new waters, and that's what's so interesting, because obviously this guy has been here before. I want to do the Kamala Harris impersonation. I am exhausted. Anyway.
Well, I feel, look, there's a number of things going on. I don't think we've heard from her yet. No. If we do, we'll tell you as soon as we do. Yeah. She's, I imagine, in pieces.
Now, this is this is what I find fascinating about the results. We've discussed it before, without expressing personal preferences. I think we both said we think he could just, well, pull it off, regardless of one's personal politics. But I think there were so many things. I think she was largely untested. I think the Democrats showed such a reluctance to pull Biden out that people resented that. You had somebody who was manifestly unable to do the job of president. I think the presumption, and this really annoys me, that women will vote just because she's a woman, have we not moved on further than that? Or that
people of colour will vote simply because there is a person of colour.
As it happens, the figures suggest he got very good support from black men, Trump.
Absolutely.
And there was no difference in black women voting for him than they did 4 years ago.
Which plays to the idea that the messages that he was telegraphing, I'm a friend to business, I will sort out immigration, I will bring you lower taxes, all the kind of domestic ideas that resonate with people, plus the fact that Harris was so silent, because she focused so much of her campaign on attacking him rather than saying what she would do.
But there was also a reality that we wouldn't have understood here. So the reality for a lot of black voters was that they saw Trump in the dying days of his last presidency, grant clemency to a lot of rappers. He is said to have given them their version of the furlough. There's a lot of black men who have believed that it was because of Trump that they got this free money. So, very much for a lot of the black vote, they saw Trump as doing something for them, whereas they saw Kamala as just being part of the set.
OK, we'll have a few words from Mr. Trump, because he's made a speech this morning, came out before we officially knew he'd won. By the way, still officially not his victory, we should say. I mean, I suppose it's like 1 in a million that Kamala could still find a way through, but not going to happen. And Trump said, he scored a magnificent victory for the American people that will help heal the country.
Well, I want to thank you all very much. This is great. These are our friends. We have thousands of friends on this incredible movement. This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. Frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country, and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance, because we're going to help our country heal. This is a magnificent victory for the American people that will allow us to make America great again.
So I was listening to that, and I may be wrong. I don't think he mentioned Kamala Harris once, which is a real break with tradition, because normally, if you've won, you say, I want to commiserate with the loser. She fought a good campaign. There was none of that. Now, here we have them on the tightrope. Do you remember we had this image before the election, how tight it was going to be and so on? And then it wasn't even, well, you can see, actually, as you look carefully here, you'll see the rope wobble. And that was the first sign of trouble for Kamala. There we are. And then there's this massive Trump quake, and she's simply blown away. There we go. And he's basically then on his own, the victor. In fact, we could even take the remove button here and swipe out the tightrope because he doesn't even need that. Because this is an act of extraordinary political levitation by this man. Why is he walking on air? Well, he has won twice with a loss in between. And you have to really search the records to find anyone else who's done that. So he's a very remarkable politician for our age, whether you like him or not. Angela was saying, he focused on a lot of things that matter to people. Let's go through the issues that polls tell us were important. The economy, immigration, gun control. This is in order of importance. Health, education. These are the things that Americans mention. Abortion, of course, we heard about a lot. Taxes, crime and punishment. Then inequality, budget deficit, these big economic things. A lot of foreign affairs comes in, China, Middle East, Russia. The trans issue comes above climate change. This is a Gallup poll. And then lastly, democracy, which is probably more on Kamala's side, worrying about what happened last time. But let's wind it back, okay? And just let's take it right. That's it. That's good. Right back to the beginning and to these first two. And Trump, like him or loathe him, what he does is he says, what's important to people? Answer number one, cost of living, and number two, immigration. And he says, all right, I'll go for those two, but mainly I'm going to put the spotlight on that one. And he did it absolutely remorselessly. You remember his thing about they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. All that stuff probably played well for him. Here we have a picture board of the presidential contest since 1948, Truman-Dewey. So we've paired them all up using AI images, okay? And we're trying to find anything that's like this. And you go through the whole of the 20th century after 1945, which is 13 elections, and then all the ones in the 21st century. I mean, there's nothing. Like, Reagan won twice, sure enough, so did Obama, so did Clinton, beat Dole the second time. But, nobody has done this thing of stringing together two victories with a loss in the middle. So you look and you look and you look and you think, these are all, even this weird one, Eisenhower, Stevenson twice, nothing like this. And in football, they do this thing of win-loss, don't they? So Trump has gone win, loss, win. And we tried to find a precedent, okay? And we had to go back about 150 years for this one. Who's done that? Who's come back a second time? Come back for more? Grover Cleveland is the answer. There he is. Trump is 45 and 47. This guy was 22 and 24. So he won in 1884. He lost in 88. And he thought, I'm not having that. I'm coming back. The confidence you must need as a politician to do that, come back and win, well, he had it. This is the days of bushy moustaches, right? That's how far ago that is. 22nd and 24th, 45th and 47th. Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing that you would even, leave aside like or loathe him, forget that for a second. The fact that at the age of nearly 80, you would put yourself through that when you might lose twice in a row.
Well, what this speaks to me, what this screams to me, actually, is money. And who was prepared to back the players. And what we know about Trump is he had some magnificently wealthy, powerful backers.
So did Kamala, though.
Well, she did, but what she had was only 107 days to put together a competent challenge. It wasn't long enough. And what we needed, actually, was some fresh blood, I think, for the Democrats. And we just didn't get that opportunity. And I think that's when the Democrats go back and they look over what has happened over the last 107 days, I think they are going to ask themselves, where was the opportunity for that fresh blood to come through?
I thought she was as good as it gets, and he's unbeatable. Just 1 second. Before Angela comes in, let's just look at where we are, because it's very important. We do stress that you've got to have 270 so-called Electoral College votes to win, and he's still on 266. But there is effectively no way back for her, because the 7 swing states, Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia. If you look at them, those 4 look as if they're going Trump. That's why they're pink. These 2 have flipped from Democrat to Republican, and that one has gone Republican, stayed Republican, North Carolina. So that's why everyone is saying Trump has won. Okay? Nothing else on the map jumps out. Yes, she won states that they were always going to win, like California, like New York State. She won Illinois. But, there was a wobble in the middle of the night where we heard that she might lose Minnesota. And that's where her deputy, Mr. Waltz comes from. So it's an amazing victory, Angela.
It is, and I think just coming back to the specifics of your question, which is why it's 78, which I think is older than when Biden started.
Yeah.
Why put yourself through it? I think, I'm an armchair psychologist here, but it looks to me like ego, charisma, self-belief, monumental self-belief.
Couldn't accept a loss.
Yeah, that's the ego part. And also, somewhere, let's give him a little bit of credit that he has the belief that somehow he can fix it. I know it's become almost a cliche, the Make America Great Again. It's not his original slogan. But the idea is that he is the kingmaker. He can make this country what it should be on the international stage. And that's why, he resonates with people, even if they don't like him. His high-stakes strategy when dealing with international figures, which we've not even touched yet. That volatility could even be a strategic advantage because he cuts through.
Let's pause. Maybe we'll have, here's a thought, no wars for 4 years. He more or less promised that there won't be any wars now. After the break. So welcome back. We're live on Channel 5 with Paula and Angela. Later, if we've time, we'll talk about whether it's right to weigh 4- and 5-year-olds. I'm sort of thinking we might end up just talking about Trump for the next hour and a quarter, because it is just remarkable. I believed in the polls and it's tight, and it wasn't tight. That's the thing. And she's been properly sort of smashed here, like Hillary Clinton was.
She has, and this the idea that she suddenly then disappears. I know it hasn't.
She hasn't spoken. As soon as she speaks, we'll let you know.
No, but the fact that she's absolutely gone silent, she's gone to ground. You see the pictures of the campaign meeting, and it's just like there's just the caretaker sweeping up.
Yeah, but overnight, what became clear was that in the cities they weren't turning out for her. That's where the Democrats get their strength. You've already mentioned black voters. Latinos were clearly not offended by that joke because they turned out in big numbers for Trump. And then the other thing that happened, which is like 2016, is he just turbocharged all those rural voters.
And the independents.
Yeah.
Also picked up the independent vote, which, he has, at the moment, we understand it, not only got the collegiate vote, but he has the popular vote.
Yeah, that's amazing. So
which is something really
more than Hillary Clinton. Even despite California going Democrat, he has got more votes as a total than Kamala. The UK government has responded to Trump's victory. Let's have a look at what they've said. So, Prime Minister here, through gritted teeth, maybe, I don't know. Congratulations, President-elect Trump, on your historic election victory. I look forward to working with you in the years ahead. And there's that sort of pause of, what do I say now? As the closest of allies, we stand shoulder to shoulder in defence of our shared values. From growth and security to innovation and tech, I know the UK-US special relationship will continue to prosper. Well, fair enough, but they've been, I'll show you, the Foreign Secretary has been very rude about Trump in the past. Very, very rude when Labour were in opposition. And they remember these guys in the States. Congratulations, real Donald Trump, on your victory. The UK has no greater friend than the US, with a special relationship being cherished on both sides of the Atlantic for more than 80 years. We look forward to working with you and JD Vance. We must find David Lammy's comments. We'll get them for you, because back in the day, when he was in opposition, oh my goodness, different story. Right, our first caller on this historic day is Laura in Essex. When did you find out he'd won, Laura?
Oh, hello. Nice to talk to you again, Jeremy. It was about 7 o'clock this morning. I was getting my son ready for school, and up it popped on BBC iPlayer. It fills me with hope. I don't know why anyone is surprised by this, yourself and your panel included. In fact, every broadcaster seems to have not seen this coming, and I've saw this coming pretty much since he left office, 2020? Biden hasn't got what it takes. Kamala hasn't got what it takes. I'm sure she's a lovely lady, but far too wishy-washy.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing. I don't know whether the problem was Kamala or whether this is actually all to do with Trump being amazing at the way he connects with ordinary people. Yeah, I must admit, but we are going to have to get out the Trump impression. Thank you, Laura. Jane in London, fear or hope?
Absolute fear. Absolute fear. I literally had a full-blown panic attack when I found out this morning.
Really? What, you got up, you put the radio on, put the TV on, and then you just, what happened? You needed medical help or?
Well, no, I woke up really panicky, and then my daughter rang me and told me.
Oh,
and for me, the main thing is the planet, our climate, It's big oil and billionaires that are pumping money into him and his campaign.
Well,
and he's already shown.
I'm glad you. Sorry to interrupt you, Jane, but I'm glad you mentioned that because he has clearly. He didn't want to sign the Paris Accord, and it's quite clear they're not going to go the same way as most of the rest of the world. And he has said, I'll quote him now. He said, I'm not going to be a dictator except on day one because it's drill, baby, drill. So he wants oil. I'll come back to you, Jane, I promise. But does that fill you with worry?
Absolute worry. You've referenced some of the points that I was going to remind people of. And don't forget, we are also talking about a president who is a criminal. Yes, so he has been found guilty.
Well, you're a lawyer. Could he still go to jail?
Well, he could still go to jail. We've still got. So remember,
he hasn't been sentenced yet.
He hasn't been sentenced yet in relation to that. And remember, we still have 3 outstanding criminal actions in relation to the riots on the 6th of January in regards to Capitol Hill and whether he played any part in that. That's still ongoing.
Here's the thought, right? If a court says, right, I'm sorry, it doesn't matter who you are, you're going to jail. They won't be able to hold him. There will be an insurgency around the jail that will make it too dangerous to imprison him.
Well, interestingly, so I don't think he can pardon himself, but what he can do is he can still sit as a president.
He can. From jail. He can have a phone installed. Yeah,
he can have his phone installed. But remember, the Supreme Court is a Republican Supreme Court. He's not going to.
He'll quash it, yeah. Jane, what do you think of that? Is there a crumb of comfort for you there that he may be jailed?
Well, he needs to be. He's a criminal who has attacked women, and it's just like a dystopian nightmare that he's back.
Okay, well, listen,
unbelievable.
Stay level-headed. We'll get through this together, okay? For good or ill. It might turn out better than you think. Yeah. Angela thinks it's good.
Well, I think, look, both of them didn't thrill me, but I think on the balance of the two that we were offered, amazing considering the huge size of the country, that this is what they have. Look, this is
He was found to be a rapist in a civil court.
Pardon?
He was found to be a rapist
and
in a civil court.
$83.3 million or $83.3 million to his victim.
And is that not really serious? I mean, really?
OK, the question is, I agree with all of those things. The question is that these were the 2 candidates that were put forward. Were there better candidates than both of them? Undoubtedly, but we have to deal with what we have on the table here. And I would say that even though all of those things are true, he has cut through to voters. He's saying, I'm going to make America independent. NATO, you're going to have to find your own money for Europe. You're going to have to find your own money for NATO. Yep. We're going to be independent in terms of energy. We're not going to rely on foreign powers who can hold us to ransom.
Okay, let's have another call. We've got loads of people who want to speak about this. Everyone's woken up and found out. Yvonne in West Sussex, were you surprised?
Hi there. No, I wasn't surprised. Morning, Jeremy and panel. I turned the telly on about 5 o'clock this morning. I wasn't surprised. And I'm over the moon, absolutely over the moon. I think, not to go on about politics here, but there's too much pussyfooting around. He'll be decisive. He'll be effective. He's charismatic. He'll make decisions, and a lot of people won't like it. But he'll make change. And let's face it, human beings don't like change, do they?
I was going to say, what you've said makes me think there is a really big warning shot for Labour here, which is that you can have a massive win and then 5 years later you can have a massive loss. And also, it's somewhat the power of Farage as well.
We're at a crossroads, not just in the States, because I think the States very much are at a crossroads, in terms of what do the Republican Party do now? What do they do next? Because they don't resemble the Republican Party of Ronald Reagan.
But he'll die at some point.
Absolutely.
And they'll have a successor who won't be him. So if they'd lost, then the Trump problem would be really difficult. But they're in power. They've taken the Senate as well.
There's a parable here as well. If we look at Boris, again, charismatic, connected, had a unique talent in terms of connecting with people. And and he won a historic victory, and then all sorts of shenanigans, as we know, took place. And I think the Conservative Party started to implode the minute that Rishi Sunak stuck the knife in his back, because then you had a succession of
nothing to do with Liz Truss.
succession of... No, I'm saying because of that...
The Conservative Party basically get rid of successful people and then have a nervous breakdown. That's
so
their history.
You get rid of Boris and then you have a succession of people that don't connect.
All right, yeah, it's so fascinating, the connections, Boris-Trump connections. OK, more calls after this. Does Trump fill you with hope or fear? When did you find out he'd won? We're still waiting for him to officially pass the 270 mark, by the way, but he looks 100% likely to be the 47th as well as the 45th president. 0207 862 More of your calls on Donald Trump, who might well be the 47th, well, almost certain to be, 99.9% certain to be the 47th, as well as the 45th president of the United States. So whether you like him or loathe him, he is a major historical figure now, living amongst us, I guess. How weird is that? And let's see what the next 4 years hold. Ian in Blackpool, what do you think?
Well,
Hello.
Well, I'm morning, I should say. I wouldn't say good morning. I'm filled with fear regarding what the future of our world will be now. Absolutely.
There's a number of choices. You could go in all, war or climate, or where's your biggest fear, Ian?
War.
War.
Absolute power corrupts. Sorry, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I fear that there are four elements of this world that are really absolutely overjoyed at the news today, which is China, which is Russia, which is North Korea, and apologies to Angela, but I also think that the current Israeli government will also be jumping for joy as well.
Do you know? So, because his big thing is he stops wars. That's his big advert. Trump will stop the wars. So he's going to do something, isn't he? In the Middle East?
I think he very much like some of the countries in prior to World War II appeased Hitler, and I think that that's what he's going to do. He's going to appease Putin. He's going to, he's already said to the media that, basically Russia can do what they want with Ukraine.
Well, I mean, that is a key point here. I don't think I've even used the word Ukraine yet.
No.
If I was Zelensky, I'd be really worried now.
Zelensky, I accept that very much so, because he's basically saying enough. Sort your own mess out, or as we say in Manchester, make your mess where you had your beer. Because America is so important for international conflicts and for the geopolitical situation because it has money. It comes back to money. Equally, and it is a high-stakes strategy, as I touched on before, but he is not afraid of direct conversations. Now, I know we laugh about the size of your button's bigger than my button, but the fact is, Kamala Harris, if you just take the Middle East as an example, she said to Israel has the right to defend itself, but on the other hand, we don't want to supply you with too many arms. She said, don't go into Rafah. Don't do this, don't do that. Israel had to go into Rafah. It successfully displaced all the people that were there, so they were out of the way. And then they found Sinwar, and they killed him, who was the architect of October 7th and the leader of Hamas.
Oh gosh, we can't go back.
No, I don't want to have that discussion
displacing
now.
them who were in the way, and where did they go?
Well, it's better than that. Can I just tell you, I've just been in Israel, and I was subjected to 3 missile strikes, and I didn't get a warning from Hezbollah. At least Israel warns people.
Okay.
So, but look,
if
we're
he
not
takes
having
Israel's
that
side in
conversation.
it, how does that help anybody?
Because if he then has, it's not so much Israel's side, it's whether he has a direct connection with Iran. Iran are the sponsors of all the terrorist atrocities that are going on in that region.
I don't think he does. I think that's one thing he does not have.
Well,
right?
he doesn't have that, and it is that unpredictability that you were referencing earlier on, which, I know it utterly depresses Ian, but actually it's the one kind of thing that I'm holding on to, that one strand where I kind of hope that his unpredictability, his drive about self, about the id, it's about Donald Trump. And if he thinks it's going to be anything that he's going to be able to make money out of, or his backers are going to be able to make money out of, that's what's going to drive him to make a decision. And I don't think that a destabilised Middle East is going to assist him in that. He described Zelensky as a salesman.
Yeah.
It wasn't in any way, it said in a complimentary way.
No, but what he said is he's managed to persuade loads of people to hand over loads of money, and he obviously doesn't like that.
Exactly. The impression being he's not going to be doing that. And of course, he said, yeah, I'm going to end the Russia-Ukraine war on my first day. But what he didn't do was he didn't say how.
Okay.
And that is what makes us nervous.
Let's get to Susan in Kent. Hi, Susan.
Morning, Jeremy.
Hope or fear?
Hallelujah. I'm so pleased he's got in. I really am. It's so refreshing to see somebody that cares about their country and their people.
Let me ask you a question. We're going to talk shortly about some of the things that went wrong during his campaign. We've almost not got time for all of them. But there was that thing where he had that rally and a guy tells a joke where he says, there's a great island of floating garbage in the Atlantic. It's called Puerto Rico. And we were told, that's it. No way can Trump win now. What do you think? People found that funny or what?
No, I don't think they found it funny at all, and it wasn't Trump that actually said that, was it?
At his rally,
so, no.
Yeah.
And what about Biden's response?
Yeah. So why do you think he won, Susan?
I think because he genuinely cares about his own country and his people. I honestly believe that, and it's refreshing to see that because all around the world, and especially our country, I don't feel that we're valued at all. So I think it's nice to see that a president actually cares about his people.
Well, he certainly does a thing called America First, which is a new approach. It's not to do with links and it's kind of a détente or having alliances or anything. It's basically screw the rest of the world. It's us now.
And also, it undermines which clearly was an unpopular woke, if you like, agenda. I know it's a bit of a lazy word, woke, but the fact is that a lot of Kamala Harris or the Democratic stance was seen as a very much a wokeist agenda, whereas people don't want nonsense. They don't want, and we are saddled with that in this country. Yeah. Absolutely, okay. People frightened of saying things.
We'll take another break, but we're getting so many calls on Trump. I'm not surprised. Yeah, and very different reactions, as you've heard. He has said what he calls will be a magnificent victory in the American election, and it's going to heal America. Do you think he can do that? Heal his country? 0207 862 2222. See you in just a moment. Here's a question for you, all right? How did he do it? Because we kept being told by the so-called, mainstream media or whatever, I suppose we're part of that, it's close and, he's made a mess of his campaign. Let's just go back over some of the big events of his campaign. So the first thing was this. This was Butler, Pennsylvania. God only knows what would have happened in the USA if the guy who fired the shot that hit his ear had hit his head and killed him. I think we can all say, thank goodness they didn't. But it's him standing up when you've got the other guy, Biden at the time, clearly in some sort of cognitive decline. Trump's on his feet, bleeding and shouting, fight, fight, fight. They always said, off the back of that, the bullet missed Trump and hit Biden, because that effectively knocked Biden out of the race and into Kamala. All right, let's just remind ourselves what's coming next, okay? What have we got coming next? We've got... Okay, this is the famous clip now where he's in the debate and he's with Kamala. And, people are thinking, has he gone off message? Because he comes out with this.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
So she's thinking she's won the election there. She hasn't. Here he is at a rally. He was heavily criticised for these hand movements over the microphone, which were said, and mouth movements, which were said to resemble a sexual act. He said, I was eating a corn dog.
Way too low.
That went down badly. Okay. Next, the New York rally. What about this?
Literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
She got 85 million votes because she's just so impressive. As the first Samoan, Malaysian, low IQ.
She's a fake, a fraud. She's a pretender. Her and her pimp handlers.
She is the devil, whoever screamed that out. She is the Antichrist.
I don't see no stinking Nazis in here. I don't see no stinking domestic terrorist in here.
Out of character for me to speak at a Nazi rally. I was just in Israel, but I took the gig.
I mean, then there was this row over the garbage joke we just heard, but he doesn't like stairs. He doesn't like opening doors. People said, why is he getting in a garbage truck? It's just reminding people of the joke about Puerto Ricans living in a garbage country. he said it was to attack Joe Biden. So, but then he turns up and he says something and it's all a bit of a chaos. But the thing is, it didn't matter. It may have even worked. Make America Great Again worked. The orange makeup, the orange bib, the whole thing, it worked.
Calling Vice President Kamala Harris the B word.
Yeah.
They don't care. They don't care that he has been found guilty of sexual assault. They don't care.
So the question is why?
Because, we were told why. I watched a supporter of Trump tell a presenter, I want a bully in the White House, and that's why I'm going to vote for Trump. And so they got what they asked for.
Let's ask Pat in Newcastle. How come he won despite all that? Pat?
I don't understand why he won. I had to leave my breakfast because I feel physically sick at him getting in.
We had someone earlier had a panic attack, so you've had to leave your breakfast.
Yes. I feel like a man like him, how did he get in? It doesn't, I don't understand it. It's really, really alien. I think kindness has gone out of the world and money has got back in, and kindness to me is more important than any money. You need money, but you don't need loads of it, and you don't need power like that man will have. Yeah. And I won't be able to watch the TV news again for 4 years.
Please don't leave us for 4 years. We'll try and stay upbeat to whatever happens. Thank you, Pat. That's such a sweet call. And there is a thing called Trump derangement syndrome.
Yes.
Where people do really get upset about it.
And I absolutely, and I think we have to kind of, in modern speak, own that, because there is no place for insults, unkindness, racism. We shouldn't even have to say those things. Those are not tactics with which to win an election. But it, like you say, it doesn't seem to matter. He is a politician who is cutting through. We have in this country a prime minister who is colourless, he's wishy-washy, he U-turns, he breaks promises. In 100 days, he's done more damage than could have ever been imagined, which was predicted that he would. And I think that doesn't justify the things that Trump has done or said. What it's saying is people want leadership. And if you've got somebody who's standing there who's saying, I'm going to fix it, and he says it often enough, and you've got his competitor who's saying, no, you're not, because you do this, this and this, rather than telling us how she's going to fix it, then where are people left?
If he says, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, and we sort of know it's not true, don't we? Because he's saying Haitians are doing it. Yeah. And maybe even viewers who watch it know it's not true, but it resonates with them, and they're thinking, yeah, I'm scared of that as well. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a fear thing?
It's all about the fear. It's all about this cult leadership that he is building. And, I think it's not actually about him being a great politician, because he isn't a great politician. He didn't even know that we had nuclear weapons, for goodness sake. What it's about is about him being a businessman. And that is what people want. They want money in their pockets.
The art of the deal.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mike in London, hi.
Oh, hi.
You feeling pleased today or worried?
Well, I was actually up all night. I watched the whole thing from start to finish. I had to laugh midway through the evening at 3 o'clock when they were saying it's still inch by inch. It's very close. Trump slightly ahead. He was 20-1 to Harris at that point on the betting markets where money actually talks. Yeah. And even before the election, Trump was clearly favourite. There was one point 3 weeks earlier where they were level momentarily, but that was the only time. So all this business of that neck-and-neck prior to election was actually nonsense. What the Americans wanted was about their economy, the inflation. Even though the economy has improved lately, they were worried about inflation. They were also worried about crime. They were also worried about immigration. These are the things that the man and woman on the doorstep were really concerned about, and that ultimately they thought he would be a much greater presence on the world stage as well than Camilla, who is a bit wishy-washy, although she didn't really have time.
No, and also she's been in charge. So she was asked, what will you do differently from Biden? And she said nothing. So that's quite a sticky wicket, really, however well he might have done.
Exactly. So she's tainted with that and associated with that as well. She didn't have enough time, admittedly, but she didn't. She had the opportunity to really present herself, and she was more interested, really, in damning Trump than actually presenting what show the American voters what she would have done. And I think a combination of all those things, and it wasn't inevitable, but the markets told you it was, despite what the media were trying to say. And
right.
It's only about 5 o'clock that they finally acknowledged the fact that it probably would win.
Well, yeah, fair enough, fair comment. Thank you, Mike, very much. I mean, naturally, we're all cautious because we haven't got the final votes in. We're going to speak to John Scardino now, who's UK Vice Chair for Democrats Abroad. Oh, what happened to your party there?
It's a bit disappointing, I have to say. I know that there's still a few numbers that some would say are still to come in, but it's pretty clear the direction that this is going, and it's a shame. I mean, Democrats abroad have worked very hard to find Americans all over the UK to make sure that they are registered to vote, that they've gotten their ballots, and that they've sent them back in. So it's, we're obviously very let down, but there is another election coming up. I know your viewers and others in the UK may not be ready for yet another election, but we've got the midterm elections coming up in 2026, where all of the House of Representatives and a third of the Senate will be up for election. And typically, the party that's in power in the White House does very badly in those elections, in the midterm elections. And I think that the Democrats will have to use that as some wind in their sails to try to regroup, reflect on what's happened, and come back at it.
But we're clutching at straws here, aren't we? The idea that there's another election. There's always another election in the future. But the issue here is why you did so badly when you had a candidate who seemed to be campaigning so well.
I think she did campaign well. And I think given a bit more time, as one of your callers just said, that I think that given a bit more time, that she could have done a better job of, I think, getting her platform across, getting her policies across. There is an awful lot of attention that's given to Donald Trump because he knows how to manipulate things so well. He's been, in the front of a TV camera for a good part of his life. He is had his own TV show. He knows how to be provocative. He knows how to, and he says things, many of which are not based in fact, but are very provocative and very dramatic and very theatrical. So even if you just pointed the camera at him and let him talk, you could be offended and find a lot of fault in just what he said. So I think she has an obligation to heighten and point the spotlight on some of the things that he said and some of his behavior. I think all of that said, there's a very practical issue, Jeremy, that's coming up in just a few weeks. He's been convicted of a felony crime using his business money to pay off a porn star to keep her quiet during the last election that he was in, or in 2016. He's been convicted of that, and he's due to come up for sentencing in just a couple of weeks. So there's a practical issue here, and I don't mean to take the sails out of the Republicans, take the wind out of the Republican sails, but there is a practical issue about how is the judge going to deal with this? Because if he does get jail time, is he going to be out in time for his own inauguration?
It's like the whole country's become a TV show. Thank you so much. Good to talk to you on a very difficult morning for the Democrats. That is John Scardino, who chairs Democrats Abroad in the UK. All right, let's take some more calls. This is so fascinating. We're all just kind of getting to grips with this new world. 4 more years of Donald Trump. Sally in Surrey, hi.
Hello, Jeremy. Hello, panel. I'm absolutely horrified. I'm so appalled that he's got back in for a number of reasons that we've already discussed many times, not least of which is the fact he's a convicted felon and he tried to overturn democracy, and he's got some completely catastrophic ideas. I think he fully intends to overturn the right to vote again, and I think he's a misogynist. He's said the most bewilderingly mad things. I think his cognitive function is quite diminished. And what horrifies me is that some of your callers have actually said they're delighted.
Yes, lots have. Yeah. But I mean, when you say the cognitive thing, he's about the same age as Biden. And he was on a couple of weeks ago during the campaign, he said to an interviewer, I can't get out of this Trump impression. He said, I was talking to Oprah on her show last week, And someone pointed out Oprah's show has not been on for 10 years. And you're just suddenly thinking, wait, is there something wrong here, Angela?
Well, okay.
Cognitively?
Possibly. I sometimes run up the stairs at home and think, what did I want?
Yeah, but you don't say I was talking to Oprah last week when you weren't.
Well, I wasn't, just because we've never had a chance to have a chat.
Yeah, but
look,
come on.
Yeah, equally, the guy has survived two assassination attempts.
Yeah.
I mean...
The first one was astonishing, how on earth he survived that.
Yeah, and I suppose some people would say, well, there, it's in the room.
Oh, God, he did say it was God, yeah.
Yeah, and for anybody that has had a near miss in life who's had to face their mortality would say, well, hang on, there's a message here. That's a whole different conversation. But he would have been easily forgiven for saying, look, it is simply not safe. The family don't think it's safe for me. And I mean, there's an element of either it's courage or stupidity, but it's that force of nature that I think is resonating
I'll hold
with
the
people.
picture up just because this is now probably the photograph of the century so far. I mean, obviously, the 9/11 had an image that we all remember as well, but that because he's now won, the fact that he shouted "fight" and then won makes this probably one of those extraordinary photos.
Iconic moments, absolutely.
And I think we also haven't just touched upon very quickly the fact that Kamala Harris stood in 2019. Was it 2019 as a potential?
She ran, yeah.
She ran for the
Yeah.
nomination for the Democrats, and she got knocked out. Now that says something. So the people that will remember her will remember her as somebody who's a kind of a bit of an also-ran. And then during her vice presidency, has she done anything to distinguish herself? Given the fact that she'd shown previous ambition to want to be president, you'd think this is my opportunity. I know it's a bit of a rubbish role, but she could have done something. And there's nothing we can't say. When she was vice president,
well,
she
this
did X or
goes back
Y.
to the question of what was Kamala going to be bringing to the table that was going to be different to to Biden. And you'll remember the whole Project 25. This was a think tank that produced Project 25 for the Republican Party, setting out what was essentially going to be a manifesto. And I know that Donald Trump...
If it's true, I mean, they keep disowning it.
I was going to say, I know that Donald Trump stood back from that, but the point is, where was the Democrats' Project 25? What did we know that was going to radically change what we'd known for the last 4 years?
More of your calls on whether Trump returning to the White House fills you with hope or fear. We've got so many people wanting to get in touch and say their bit. On both sides, David, which side are you on in Gateshead?
Hello, Jeremy. Good morning.
Morning.
I've woke up this morning full of hope, to be honest with you. I think you'd be a fantastic leader for the strongest country in the Western world, which is America. I think he's not afraid to express an opinion, whether you like it or not. And I think that sort of resonated with a lot of Americans who, let's face it, America has spoken and they've voted their man in.
Yeah, well, maybe that's right. It's how the system works. I mean, the funny thing to me watching it was he complained the last election was stolen because he lost. But then to see him then submit himself for election, in other words, saying, look, I do respect the fact that you have to be elected to get to the White House, I thought was quite a turnaround in a way. He obviously thinks there's no other way to the White House other than by an election.
Well,
is that with small mercies, right?
It's a very small mercy because, of course, before the count was coming in, he was suggesting that Philly was somehow
wasn't
he? He was already starting to say that
we would have had another stop the steal.
Exactly.
Paul in Cardiff, hi. What do you think?
Good morning, Panel. Good morning, Jerry.
Morning.
How are you?
Good. Not bad. I'm taking it all in, you know.
Not happy at all, mate.
Happy? Are you? You happy or not?
No, happy at all. I feel sorry for America, and I feel the worst for everybody, especially America. He won't last long being in the White House. I think he'll be gone.
Oof, I don't know. He will be not just the most powerful man in the world, but somebody who wants to use that power. In fact, I think 4 years out will give you a lot of thinking time about, if I got back in, what am I actually going to properly do this time? Don't you think, Paul, he's going to have a whole list of stuff?
Yeah, but I think he's all good. He's all promising, but I think he'll push for a wall for us and all that, and that's what will happen in passing time. It'll be a war soon. I think he'll call.
A war. Okay, I thought you said because the wall is the other thing. He didn't finish it first.
Oh no,
time.
we didn't finish.
What do you think, Angela?
Well, we've overlooked some of the things he has accomplished in the past. I mean, he negotiated or led the Abraham Accords, which paved the way for certain countries to look towards peace with Israel in the Middle East.
Well, so they say that Saudi Arabia were about to sign, and to stop them, Hamas did October the 7th. That's one of these sort of
sponsored
theories.
by Iran, who he wants to pull Iran
to
back
derail
into
it. So yeah, maybe credit is due there. Ron in the West Midlands, are you happy or fearful?
Ron.
Hi, Ron.
Yeah, I'm happy, extremely happy.
You didn't want to see Kamala Harris win? You didn't think give her a chance?
No, I watch lots of videos on YouTube, and I'm retired, and I do like a good laugh.
Well, what was she? I mean, there are lots of videos knocking around that are very nasty about both of them. So I never know whether to get involved in all that stuff. It just seems a bit grubby.
I think, it's chalk and cheese. I mean, the guy, all right, he's not much of a politician, but he's a deal maker.
Yeah. Josh, it's funny, you're the second person to say he's not a politician. I think you were the first. Yeah.
Yes.
So what, you think he'll just do stuff?
Yeah, and I think that he's also opened the door for the next president of the United States, which will be J.D. Vance.
Quite possibly, yeah.
The guy is brilliant. He's absolutely superb. He knows how to talk. He knows politics. He's ex-military. He just knows what's what.
And the interesting thing about Vance is that he called Trump America's Hitler before he supported him. So Trump thought, I'm gonna forgive the guy.
But as Donald Trump says, you have to compromise to make a deal.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Thanks, Ron. Billy in South Ayrshire, how are you, Billy?
Good morning, guys. Good morning, panel.
I'm thinking you might be a bit cheesed off about this.
You hit the nail right on the head, Jeremy.
Well, we've spoken before, and I know you've been dreading this a bit.
Well, because I don't particularly like the guy because of what he said in the past about the COVID pandemic.
Right. What, that it... well, hang on, let's just think, because it got so chaotic. I mean...
He talked about the bleach going into...
Inject disinfectant, or, crucially, hit the body with a massive amount of light. That could do it. So, Billy, why didn't you like that stuff?
Well, it was mainly to do with bleach and disinfectant. Drink bleach.
We're back with that.
That'll kill COVID. That'll take COVID out of your body. How the hell's that going to work? That'll just kill you.
And then he said you would need, though, a real doctor to check it, as if he was a different sort of doctor. Thanks, Billy, for reminding us of that greatest hit. Janice in Worcestershire. Happy or fearful, Janice?
Happy, quite happy, because I think he's a strong man. I think that Kamala is weak, and I don't think she's ready to be a president. America's a huge country. I think it needs someone like Donald Trump. Let's all remember that he is teetotal, so nothing he says is on the back of a bottle of wine or a load of whiskey.
That might be a greater worry for some people, Janice. I mean,
in vino veritas.
Saying I said all that, I said all that when I had 2 cans of lager is sometimes quite a good excuse, Okay, you're happy. All I was thinking was, if we look back to the last Trump presidency, there was some very nasty aggro between, I suppose, left-wing demonstrators. I mean, it all started after George Floyd and that murder. And my God, he sent the troops in. They had all that tear gas around a church in Washington. And if that wasn't enough, he turned up holding a Bible to pose for photos. Things got dark.
Yes, but can we go back to George Floyd? I don't think that people seem to realise that this George Floyd was a very evil man.
Oh,
he was an unpleasant man.
Not when he was murdered.
But I don't see that that's got anything to do with Trump.
Well, I'm going to let Paula come in on that.
I mean, I'm
inappropriate, Janice.
I'm really disappointed, Janice, that you would consider that a man who was murdered by a police officer, that whatever he did, that you think that it's appropriate for justice to be dealt out in that way. Is that what you're saying? So he deserved to be murdered?
No, I think let's leave Janet. I sort of feel it's inappropriate to say. Okay, he may have had,
but I think
this past. What Janice
has said, I think does reflect on what I said earlier about how they want a strong man in the White House. They want a bully. They want somebody who has committed acts of sexual assault. Trump said himself, if he went out and stood outside Trump Towers and shot someone, he would get away with it.
Yeah, well, go on,
That's what he said.
Well, I tell you what I've got some beef about. We talk about law enforcement and the rule of law and upholding the rule of law, and obviously I defer to you as an officer of the court, obviously under a different jurisdiction, but, I don't know about Jeremy, but you certainly know far more than me about law.
I defer to Paula, always,
I completely defer to you and respect you for understanding law, even though, like I say, it's a different jurisdiction. One of the things that I had beef about, and it's quite personal to me, is we saw recently anti-Semitism roaring across American campuses. There were Jewish students, I'm just using this as a snapshot because I know it won't resonate with everybody, Jewish students literally fearful for going onto campus, for doing what they would, because they were effectively either being blamed for Israeli policy or because they were Jews. Now, Trump was very quick, and he said it before, about pulling funding and introducing law enforcement for any university that encouraged or didn't get rid of anti-Semitic propaganda. Kamala Harris was an officer of the court. She's legally trained. She did nothing. She said nothing. She looked away. Now, because that one didn't particularly.
But her supporters see her as too pro-Israel. I mean, she had a very, very
about
difficult.
Israel. I'm not talking about Israel. I'm talking about racism.
Yeah.
And anybody who cherry picks their fight with racism doesn't score with me.
Emily in Essex, hi.
Hi.
Now, you're our last caller on this. My goodness, everyone wants to talk about it, so I'm glad I've squeezed you in. Let me think. You're worried, are you?
I am very, very worried for the world, for everyone individually, and I am so disgusted and disappointed with the people. Sorry for all you people who voted Trump, but what the hell were you thinking? He is a rapist. He is racist. He is absolutely... The lady's right. He could go outside and just shoot someone. In fact, didn't he say he was going to shoot people who didn't agree with him? I'm absolutely more...
Lost track. Yeah, he might have said that. I don't know. I mean, he said Liz Cheney should face a firing squad, and I think that was possibly taken out of context. But yeah, I know, Emily, we're in for a wild ride, aren't we?
Yeah, I've been sick this morning. My dog's been sick, but I think that's...
All right, thank you so much. So we've had someone ring up, say they've had a panic attack. Someone rang up from Newcastle, she couldn't eat her breakfast. And now Emily's dog's been sick.
So
and
Emily...
That's just day one.
Can I ask one final question then, Emily?
No, we have to move on.
Oh,
sorry.
I was just going to say...
Thanks, Emily. Sorry. Thanks for all your calls on this morning. If Trump does cross the magic 270, we're still looking over at our map. He hasn't yet. So I suppose if you're Kamala, you're thinking, hang on, there's still a chance.